What's up, team? Today is day 294, my fitness journey. You know, we're looking good. We got the Twisted Tea jersey on. Let's get twisted. I haven't had an alcoholic drink in probably 4.5, almost 5 months now. I don't know. We've been on a pretty strict diet, 2,000 calories, since pretty much January 1st. Well, give or take a few days. I don't remember exactly when the start date was, but yeah, 4 months ago. We are less than 3 months away from me stepping on stage with my brother into a bodybuilding competition, and I do not have a lot of muscle. I'm not going to get into it like that today. So, today I want to tell you about my entire process during having to go to jury duty. Okay, so the last 2 weeks, I was in the courtroom approximately 7 days for at least 5 to 6 hours a day. And some people have gone to jury duty, some people haven't. This was my first time personally, and I'm going to explain to you what happened and the case that I got stuck on. Now, trigger warning right now, the case that I got stuck on was an SA, not SkillAscension, but sexual assault case. So if that's something that triggers you, something you don't want to hear, don't watch this video. It's as simple as that. I'm not going to get super into detail what they said, but it is about sexual assault. All right. Anyways, so I got a letter about 2 months ago, and it's from the courthouse. It says mandatory jury duty. Here we go. Come do this. Go online, fill out a survey, so then when you get here, we can ask you questions about stuff if we want to get rid of you. By get rid of you, I mean they don't want to sit you on a jury. So, the first case, there's about 50 of us in the room, and they take 12 to 14 per jury. Now, you could, if you get unlucky, you could get chosen to be on multiple. I got lucky enough that I was only chosen for one. I actually tried to get out of it, but they didn't really believe me, even though I told them the truth. Anyways, we'll get to that. So there's about 50 of us in the courtroom. The judge reads off this 20-minute long, he just has paperwork. Just a stack of it that he has to read us. Then we watch a 30-minute video on how jury duty is our civic duty and all that good stuff, and you should be happy to be here and all that. And then they get into the names. So they just pick you at random, and if you don't have any objections or you don't have any reasons you can't sit on the jury, scheduling reasons, personal reasons, or even you know somebody that's there, that's part of the defense, that's a part of the prosecution, that's a witness. If you know somebody on it, then you have to say something. They won't take you. But I didn't know anybody, but I went up because I answered yes to one of the questions the judge asked, and I was like, listen, here's the deal. This is how I think. This is the way it is. This, that, and the other thing. And they're like, they think about it. They talk about it amongst themselves for 2 to 3 minutes, and then they decide, yes, I'll sit on the jury. All right. So they pick 20 of us, and they have to narrow it down to 14. That's what it was for my panel that I was sitting on. I'm sitting there. I'm waiting for them to strike people out. They're asking questions. So they strike people out, get us down to that number 14. I was number 9. So I ended up being number 9 on the case. Case starts. It is this guy is getting charged with aggravated felonious sexual assault. It's a prison sentence that could be up to 10 to 20 years in prison. It's a sexual assault case. From what I gathered in the beginning part of the prosecutor and the defense attorney, It's kind of a he said, she said type of moment. Neither of them really told the truth all that much. Multiple times they had lied. And it's our decision, we have to figure out, as the jury, have to figure out who's telling the truth. So, the woman that was assaulted got on the stand. Now, mind you, she's Brazilian. She doesn't speak a lot of English. Her main language is Portuguese. And she's an immigrant. She doesn't have a lot of friends, and she has zero family in the area, in the state. She's a target. That's what she is. She's a target for people that think the way that this person thought. The male in the situation, he's a grocery store worker. He runs the meat department at a local grocery store, or he's a manager or something along the lines. And he met this woman on either Tinder or Facebook as like a casual meetup type thing. And they meet up. They how do I explain this? They talk a few times. They talk for a little bit. Then they decide to meet up. The amount of times they meet up was inconsistent. So she said 3 times. He said 5 to 10 times. Cell phone data said somewhere in the 4 to 6 range. We don't know. Okay, who's lying? I don't know. What happens, though, is this girl, on her way up, on this last time of them hanging out, she pulls over because she's got to take a leak. So she pulls over the side of the road, she takes a leak. She lives 45 minutes to an hour away from this guy. And she drives up to him. Well, halfway there, she takes a leak on the side of the road. She goes back into her car and steps on the gas. Her tires spin and she gets slid down into a ditch. Okay, so she calls him. She calls I don't even know. The state police show up. They tow the car. And it later comes out that she's driving without a license. Okay, that's weird. Okay, to each their own. She calls him to come pick her up because she was on the way to him. He was not happy about this. They made that very, very clear. He was not happy. And so he went and got her. And supposedly he wanted to bring her home. Well, she didn't tell him her address. So instead of saying, okay, good luck, and just leaving her somewhere, he brought her back to his house. On the way back, she had told one of the witnesses, which is a nurse that does rape kits and sexual assault kits and full body examination stuff, that she, on the way back, started losing her memory. Very strange. Why would she start losing her memory? Well, she tells the nurse that she had 4 shots of alcohol, 4 nips of Fireball, and she started feeling fuzzy on the way home, doesn't remember the drive back to his house. Well, later in their testimony, it comes out that she has supposedly 4 or 5 drinks while she's there. Okay, so we don't know if that was a language barrier. We don't know if that was something else. I was leaning towards 4 to 5 drinks that night. Okay. Well, she also remembers him handing her a pill. She had a headache. She wasn't feeling that good. She had 4 to 5 shots of alcohol. She said that he handed her a pill that he said was for headaches. We don't know what pill that is. We have 0 clue. Okay? She went and got her blood drawn, her pee tested. She had nothing in her system 2 days later. Okay, this is when the nurse gets involved and all that stuff because she goes to the hospital. No alcohol, no any sort of drug in her system. Strange. Okay. However, she does not remember the night at all after that. She doesn't remember it at all. Okay? Local police department, because he lives somewhere locally, gets this case, and they go and talk to him. Say, what happened here? Did you have intercourse? Did you do this? He says no. That's where it starts. He says no. All right. Don't know why he says no, but we do get later. We get some evidence later that in text. Yeah. So we get a text that we there's evidence of a text. I don't know that she asks him, "Did you have sex with me without my permission?" To which he responds, "No. What are you talking about? We didn't have sex." Okay. Well, he tells the detective that's following up on this, "No, we didn't have any sort of intercourse. None whatsoever." The detective then says, "Okay, well, I have this warrant to swab your cheek for DNA to see if it matches what gets found." So he takes the swab, and this meeting is happening about 30 minutes away from his house. That's where they decided to meet up. Then the detective's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I also have a warrant to search your house for some like clothing or anything related to this case." And he's like, "Oh, okay. Well, I'd like you to be there when you do that." Cool. They start driving back to his house. About 25 minutes into this 30-minute drive, he calls the detective and says, "Hey, I need to talk to you. There's some stuff I left out." He then tells the detective, "Well, we did have sex. But it was because I paid her, and it was, I didn't want to get in trouble for prostitution." The detective's like, "That's the first I'm hearing of this." Okay. Goes on to talks to the girl again. "No, that's not what happened. I definitely didn't do that." And all that good stuff. Well, yeah. So I have to sit through this. Now, her testimony lasted about 2.5 days because of it. There was translations that needed to be done, and it took absolutely forever. I got so bored, I started counting how many sprinkler heads were in the room, how many lights were in the room. I was watching out the window. I was looking at all the people in the gallery that was sitting there, and it was on and on. Well, some more stuff comes out that I'm actually not the first jury to sit on this case. A previous jury about a month ago the case was basically a mistrial or something, or because the defendant, the guy that was accused, recognized a name on the jury that was supposed to be there, recognized the last name, and he reached out to a coworker/friend of his and asked if he knew this person. And this friend did know this person. It was his aunt. So the defendant was like, "Oh, can you put in a good word for me? But we're going to do this over Snapchat so that there's no evidence of this. And yeah, can you go talk to her and put in a good word for me? But if anybody comes and asks you, I didn't tell you this." So his buddy goes and does that, but the aunt then tells the court, gets her nephew in trouble for jury tampering, and then the other guy, the defendant, gets charged. He doesn't get charged yet, but with witness tampering, pretty much. So the reason this was brought up to me is because maybe this is, he had guilty intentions. He thought he was guilty, and he wanted to try to get out of it by persuading or swaying a juror. What are you doing, dude? Yeah, there's a ton more. That is just absolutely wild in this case, and I don't remember a whole lot of it. If people ask me specific questions, I'd be able to answer it. But, anyways. Where am I? Okay, so she doesn't remember it. She wakes up that morning, totally out of it, in his bed. He's gone. She's totally naked. He's at work. She texts him, calls him, does whatever, and's like, you need to drive me home. I don't have my car. It got towed. I need some money, all this other stuff. So there was a money exchange, but it wasn't for sex, according to her. And according to him, it was. I don't know. Anyways, the day after that, hold on. She stays at his house until he's out of work. So she's there for another 5 to 6 hours, off and on sleeping because her head's killing her. Sometimes mine does too when I, drink 4 to 5 shots of Fireball, which are actually, nips are a little bit more than 1 shot for Fireball. It's like 1.8 ounces or 1.9 instead of the 1.5. So they're a little bit stronger. Anyways, whatever. Yeah, hangover, all that good stuff. So she waits around, and as the day progresses, she starts to feel this pain in her butt. There's no easier way to say that. She gets driven halfway to then her ex-husband or whatever can pick her up and bring her home. I don't know if it's her ex-husband or they have a kid together. It's a baby daddy situation. I don't know. And the defendant is like super pissed about this. He's like, why can't you just do this yourself? Why can't you just call an Uber? And she's like, well, I don't have any money. Well, I also need to get the car out. Turns out the car's not actually her car. It's her ex-boyfriend's brother-in-law's car because he owns a business and she cleans for said business. I don't know. Who knows? She doesn't have a license, but she still drives it around. Anyways, the next day, so that happened Thursday night in question. Friday morning, she wakes up. Can't leave. Saturday morning, she wakes up, gets in the shower, takes a shower, is cleaning herself, and feels this absolutely atrocious pain in her butt. And when she's feeling around the area, she feels something that feels like sperm. So this is where things get a little bit crazy. She goes to the hospital, reports it to the police, and gets a rape kit done. And the nurse comes out and says there were lacerations in and around her anus that were too numerous to count, and that it would have been extremely painful to endure. Ooh, buddy, it's not looking good for you. And the nurse says, in her professional opinion, this would be too painful, and anybody that's trying to do this consensually would probably tap out. That's kind of the nail in the coffin for the guy. Anyways, so that happens. We get the swab of him for DNA. No DNA was found in or around her, or on her clothes, or under her fingernails, or anything like that. Okay, there's some bruising and around her lower legs, but it can't be determined what that's from. All right. So what this guy's charged with is this aggravated felonious sexual assault. There's 2 parts. One first part is having sex with somebody that is unconscious or something like that, along those lines. They're unconscious. They cannot defend themselves. Second part is he had sex with somebody that indicated no or gestured as no or something along those lines. Well, if the first one's true, then the second one's true. So we determined, as a jury, it took a long time to deliberate. Well, maybe not a long time, but it took approximately 5 hours to have everybody on the same page. There was a few of us that were, he's innocent because there's not enough information. who knows when this could have happened? You know, there's a couple days in between, and there were people that were like, oh, he's fully guilty. This is why. Here we go. Well, we ended up finding him guilty because there's the evidence, man. There's texts saying that, no, we didn't do anything. And then he tells the cops, oh, every time we hung out, we did something. This, that, and the other thing. The timelines just didn't line up. Everything a lot of the stuff that he said just, it didn't match up with any of the other stuff that he said to anybody else. Plus he, jury tampered, witness tampered, all that good stuff. He knew what he was doing. He screwed up. Ultimately, what it came down to was he knowingly did it, and yeah, he's going to have his sentencing in about a month. I might go see it just because I'm curious, but moral of the story is no is no, and yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. I'm really bad at telling stories, so I apologize if this was not easy to follow. Whatever. It's like a 20-something minute video. All good. With all that being said, thank you for watching. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. We're closing in on 200 subs, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.